Hey everyone, this is Charles Breed with deepthinker.io, and we are prepared for another great session of Those Inquiring Minds. We talk about brilliant minds, beautiful souls, and those who are eager to learn new topics. So we do these in 30-minute snippets once a week, same time every week. And I've got a huge LinkedIn uh, connection and some people that are a lot smarter than me that I love to reconnect with. And so instead of just reconnecting with them in a vacuum, I do that live so that you can just hear what's on their minds. And I I have no lack of content. I mean, there is just so many cool things from, investing to the economy to security. Hey, what are zero proofs of knowledge? How do those work? And all kinds of fun things. So today I have with me a special guest. I've worked with this person for many years, a brilliant entrepreneur based in Silicon Valley. He's been involved with everything from consumer products to security products to gaming to music, and now in the world of crypto. And so he's looking at crypto through a very different lens. Company's called Chia Networks. And I'm going to let Gene Hoffman explain what that's all about. Welcome to the show today, Gene.
Thank you, Charles. Thanks for having me.
Cool. So we are live on many channels here. So we're live on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, and a few others, and this gets recorded. And so we can aggregate all the chat sessions that come in. So if people have comments, questions, we always want to keep this interactive. And like I said, it's a 30-minute session, which goes by in a heartbeat. So let me start off by saying Gene Hoffman, who's president of Chia Networks, which is in the crypto space. And, the very first, I have like 3 questions for Gene, because I know Gene, I can ask him one question and that will be 45 minutes. So I gotta keep this short. But the 3 questions are: give us the elevator pitch on Chia, including why you're different than which everybody knows as the cornerstone of Bitcoin. And then more interestingly is open up your crystal ball. And, we're in a crazy time right now with the Fed printing money, this pandemic issue, constriction of global trade. I mean, there are so many moving parts that will affect all of our lives, our kids, our families, our companies. If you thought 2020 was a strange year, expect the same in 2021. It may be, I can't comment about dual hurricanes and murder hornets and asteroids hitting planet Earth and presidential elections. But within, finance and tech, a lot of stuff's happening. So let me turn it over to Gene, give the Chia pitch, and then I think everybody's going to be thinking of Bitcoin. Okay, how is it different? What's unique? Because I'm sure whether you like it or not, everybody gets pigeonholed into what they know. Talk your way out of that one, and then we'll go into the future. So
sure. So to the first point of question, there's kind of 2 things that we believe at Chia. Thing one is that Bitcoin is almost right. There is one place where Satoshi talks about, it can't be one address, one vote, but maybe one CPU, one vote might work. And it's a great idea. It's like, let's take this commodity everybody has too much of and doesn't use very much, and we'll harness that to create a distributed validation network. Now, of course, it turns out that it's not one CPU, one vote. It's one ASIC farm, one fab, $1 billion, one stolen hydropower plant, one vote. But it's a tantalizing idea, and I had been working with Bram Cohen just as co-CEOs in a VC portfolio. Of course, Bram of fame for creating BitTorrent and monopolizing something like 60-70% of the internet at night for a while. he'd taken a look at cryptocurrency too and come to a similar conclusion, which was that you didn't want to have to spend a large nation's total electrical power supply annually to validate the types of transactions that we're doing. And in fact, storage and hard drives and SSD might actually be that over-allocated resource that you could leverage to create validators. And the other thing we believe is that crypto should be easier to use than cash and debit cards. And it's not right now. It's actually quite hard. And I think in some ways that's one of the other minor failings of Bitcoin is like Bitcoin script and the programmability of Bitcoin were limited. And I think that's where you've seen a lot of interest in Ethereum, a desire to have Ethereum create some of these more sophisticated, I hate the words custody and control, but it turns out it's true. It's like you want to be able to create a wallet that if somebody steals it from you, they can only get like $100 out of the $5,000 per day, right? You want it so you can do what we call a slow paper wallet, where if you lose your wallet, you've got this other wallet that you can release, and in a couple of days it would come to a new key. But the problem is somebody stole that. That's a problem. It'd be much nicer if they stole that and you still had your real key, that you could claw your funds back.
Now you have to set that up as a policy in advance, right? So you have to set that criteria before it gets stolen, not after it gets stolen.
That's right. But right now, setting those criteria are hard. You have to do secret key sharing, and you have to understand what Schnorr's key sharing algorithm looks like, and this is just a non-trivial set of problems. But with ChiaLisp and proof of space in time, ChiaLisp is a change to how the Bitcoin UTXO model works with a new programming environment that really lets you build all sorts of crazy stuff, like central bank digital currencies,
right?
Distributed identity, so that you could have your central bank digital currency only be issued to people who pass the KYC that you require as nation state X. And we're kind of focused on what I kind of call the two ends of the spectrum. It's banks and nation states on one side, because there are real strategic needs for sovereigns and their central banks to be able to bank with each other and be able to transfer money from Asia to the Middle East without going through Chase Bank in Manhattan, right?
Right.
And then on the other end, in the other extreme, there's tremendous traction with cross-border wealth transfer. If you live in Venezuela, you live in Beirut, it's already happening that you're circumventing Western Union, circumventing local capital controls to get money back to your family, to get money out of your country.
So something you didn't mention was it sounds like you're democratizing the mining aspect, where, from what little I know now, it's, you need to be a big nation state, put a mining operation of trillions of ASICs next to your hydropower plant. And, there's only a few countries in the world that can do that. And it's unfair, for the rest of us. But if you white label OEM Chia to Singapore and it's the new Sing dollars, and I live in Singapore, and so the Singapore government is my overlord, is the mining still democratized across miners, across borders?
It is. And it's really the first one where anyone can farm. That's our version of mining. Bitcoin in the early days, you've already hit the mass specialization. I mean, even mid Bitcoin, you had to get GPUs to be competitive, and then you had to buy specialized hardware. With us, anybody who's got spare storage space, that's farmable, and there's no such thing as ASIC storage, right? The closest you get to ASIC storage is SSD.
Yeah.
And
that's pricey.
Intel, Samsung, Seagate, Western Digital wake up every morning trying to store your gigabyte for less dollars per year.
So do I just buy a shit ton of storage on AWS and go do it there?
So it's too expensive on AWS, because AWS will charge you like $15 a terabyte a month, and it's kind of $15 a terabyte for a lifetime of a drive right now.
Okay.
So you can see that it's going to go out and kind of more toward the actual storage and the actual stuff that's spinning. And one of the things, depending on exactly how the economics play out, we're likely to take a whole bunch of both used storage. I mean, enterprises that retire enterprise drives because they're worried about their lifetime.
Yeah.
Well, you'll farm those until they die.
Okay, so it doesn't matter if my storage is occupied with data or not. It's just storage in general.
Well, no, you are filling it and, quote, right? And this is important. Nakamoto consensus, the whole idea, in a sense, behind Bitcoin is that you have to waste something. It's proof of space instead of proof of work here.
Yeah.
right? But you're still proving demonstrably that you did it, and it's to get around what's called the Sybil attack. It's so that you actually have a pretty good idea that this is actually a single entity or a single organization that's going to
Right.
validate your transactions. Because what you don't want is you don't want a cabal to be the person validating the next transaction you make when you're buying a house.
Yeah. So, do you expect Chia to be used for other things besides currency? So, I've always been a huge fan of blockchain distributed ledger, not for currency, but for home loan titles, car titles, smart contracts. Is your play primarily in the currency world?
No, not necessarily. I like to say that's money and money adjacent. And
Okay.
I will say that, the Oracle problem still isn't well solved. The Oracle problem of going, okay, it says this on the blockchain. What's it really say in real life, right? Does your car still exist? Are you actually living at that property that you claim you have title to, right?
Yeah.
But things like municipal bonds and equities, like there is no reason that you couldn't have an Apple colored coin on Chia, which is actually backed 1-to-1 with an Apple share of stock at the Bank of New York that was sold to you by a broker dealer, but then you put it in your Chia wallet and you can go buy and sell it around the world to anybody that you can do a transaction with. You could literally post here's the number of Sing dollars I'm willing to sell this share
Right.
of Apple stock for on Pastebin. And if somebody wants to take the other side of that transaction, they can.
But then you're using Chia for authentication, authorization, authenticity, those kind of crypto functions, not necessarily its value as a coin.
Well, you can issue any kind of arbitrary asset. And when you take the list you were talking about, they're arbitrary assets, right? The closer they are to money, the easier those Oracle problems are, right?
Right.
But the farther they are, it's not that much further. And, that's where land titles do make some sense and those kinds of things, because you're kind of saying, hey, this PDF really is that title and I recorded it back then. And so I can have a timestamp and all those other pieces. But I mean, the real market demand right now at both extremes is, interbank, intrabank, intergovernment, intragovernment, cross-border, new and sophisticated types of distributed finance, DeFi.
Are you telling me there's problems with SWIFT and FedWire? Seriously?
And Western Union. These are all difficult things. I mean, when you and I worked together a little while back, kind of, deeply in the credit card infrastructure, I'd have entrepreneurs come to me all the time and say, I want to undermine Visa and MasterCard.
Yeah, those rails are the golden goose that keeps laying them golden eggs. And
that's right. The problem is they're just bad, but not so bad enough that it's easy to undermine them. The better answer is to actually go below them, go below the banks, and change the underlying infrastructure.
Right. So, how happy are the bank governments about these techniques?
Well, the good news is the big governments realize there's not much they can do. Here in the United States, the First Amendment makes it very hard to stop what's already kind of happened with Bitcoin. And in a lot of ways, Bitcoin has run interference for all of the new creativity that's being launched in a truly distributed manner on a blockchain. In the mid-pack, you had this interesting competition. There are folks like Singapore, Japan, Switzerland, who watched China attempt to launch a central bank digital currency. And, Singapore strategically doesn't want to be out of that game. They want the Sing dollar to be a trade currency as well. So, there's this interesting mix of kind of motivations. The number two or the mid-pack guys see these blockchain initiatives as solving real problems for them.
Yeah, I see. I think when you first mentioned this to me, I don't know, a year ago, where, you've got this OEM labeled Sing dollar, it bases their new digital currency on Chia. It's very, very interesting. But today, the common Joe Blow on the street, tin hat, uneducated lunatic is going to say, the vast majority of Bitcoin transactions today is still for illegitimate purposes. Is the number of transactions happening this second with whatever crypto you want to pick is still for drugs and bombs and other shit. Would you disagree with that? Because I don't know many stores besides, Overstock.com and a few others that take any form of crypto now. And so most people still think that it's used nefariously with, Silk Road 4.0.
Well, look, partially I'll agree in that all major great technologies tend to be put to the most interesting uses first. I mean, for the internet, it was porn, right?
Oh, I was at Cisco, and all of our big heavy routers were going to Pasadena, California, being paid in cash, and names of companies I've never heard of before. We're buying thousands of routers. So
That's right.
yeah,
But I'd like to put it in perspective, which was the actual volume basis. I think there's more legitimate transactions going on in Bitcoin than there's in cash. I mean, if you pull out your cash in your wallet and you do a cocaine test, it's likely to have cocaine on every single bill. Cash is king.
yeah,
Cash is the United States dollar is used illicitly around the globe. There are more U.S. physical dollars outside of the United States than there are in.
sure,
So, when you actually look at how people run economies globally, there's some portion that is, in the gray. And look, and this is, this gets into that classic statement of one man's freedom fighters, another man's terrorists. I mean,
yep,
people will tell me, I think it's bad that you might be creating technology that could be used to undermine capital controls. And it's like, well, I want to undermine Chinese capital controls in Taiwan. I want the Taiwanese to be able to exit.
yep. Yeah, so this goes back to our origins where we first met under, PGP, which was, two individuals should be able to stand behind the barn and have a private conversation without the government listening in. And then you can take that one step further, which is, why can't I hand Gene $100 for whatever product or services in the same way. So it's kind of an extension of those days. But
Well,
there's some crypto that does anonymously and some that does not.
that's right. Most crypto is not anonymous. And in
Yeah,
fact, there's a running joke that, FBI was out for a while saying, don't use Bitcoin. We can't trace it. Wink, wink.
which
Right.
isn't true. It's
Not
all
at all.
tied.
Part of the point of a blockchain is to be highly auditable, right? It's to be able to know that no value is created or destroyed in an individual transaction, right?
Right.
And so the pseudonymity of it makes it actually very non-anonymous. Now, there are things like Zcash and others that are adding some of this anonymity, and I think that we at Chia are going to add a more limited anonymity, because things like how much did you pay a payment partner over a payment channel probably isn't your competitive business's, interesting data that should be out there.
Right.
So layer 2 solutions, things like Lightning Network and other things that allow you to have a bit more privacy when you have kind of existing trade relationships. I think that's how you're going to see all this kind of scale when we really start to think about, cryptocurrency becoming a cash equivalent and as easy to use as cash.
So we got a bunch of questions coming in here. I'm falling behind on my moderating skills. So is Chia currently traded? If not, when? How?
So Chia is currently in testnet. We're allowing people to create plots that will work on mainnet. So if you download it today from chia.net, any plot you create will work. You've got a minimum plot size, so you want kind of a K31 or K32 when you go look at that. We expect to go live at the end of the year. We're going to initially launch with farming rewards only. We're going to hand 16 farmers one Chia every 5 minutes. That'll go on for the first 5 years. And we expect to be our first transaction date in early next year.
Okay. Next question. I've got a Coinbase wallet. Will I see you there?
Well, I can put it this way. Coinbase put us on the list of people that they were looking at to list approximately a year and a half ago. So we kind of expect to be on most of the major national exchanges and the international exchanges relatively quickly.
So a follow-on to that is, what wallet do I use? Is it a native Chia wallet, or do I use my existing wallet, or what?
So the Chia wallet's a new wallet. There's a reference Chia wallet in the Chia blockchain download that's available at chia.net. But we also expect some of the other wallet providers to start supporting this, and also things like the Ledger Nano and the Ledger X and S. They just launched the correct new key routine for BLS signatures. So we should have application support in those as well. So, a lot of the tools you're already using are likely to expand to include Chia.
Okay. And then how do I get Jeff Bezos rich on mining?
You farm at the right time. It's all about having a good source of probably used drives. I think that's the ultimate economic hack right now.
So go on eBay and buy up a bunch of used drives for nothing?
Or Alibaba and buy a couple $1,000s worth of 3-year-old SAS drives, right?
Yeah. And then how to string them together.
Yep. But you are going to be up against, sooner or later, your grandma downloading the client and just having it fill her space and automatically manage it.
So how do you get that kind of traction where I think you can attract a lot of interest if they learn that Chia is very mineable without being a major government?
Well, we're going to do something really radical. We're going to do it exactly like Bitcoin did it. So next year, we're going to give out 1.6 million Chia. And you can take that number and you can multiply it by a range of prices that we might trade for. And, we're either going to give you on a low end $20 million worth of free money, or on the high end, maybe $250 to $500 million worth of free money. I think that's going to attract a few people to farming.
Well, when you say give it out, what do you mean?
What I mean is if you're a farmer on the Chia network, you're going to have a chance to win one of 1.6 million coins next year. And it's directly proportional how much space you apply, how much space the network has.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of kickstarting the early miners to say your standard odds of mining are going to be greatly increased in this initial period of we're helicoptering this 1.6 million additional coins in. So it's going to be really lucrative if you start early or
That's
first.
Right. And there's a couple things we're doing differently than everybody else. There is a pre-farm, so Chia will own a portion of its own Chia, but the company owns it. And the company is not going to sell it. It's going to lend it. It's going to use it to buy back its own stock, but it's not going to actually go out in the market and sell it.
Okay.
So the only coins that are going to be available in the kind of open coin market are going to be the ones that were actually rewarded to farmers.
Yep.
And that's a, relatively thin market with a lot of demand. And so the two big variables next year for farmers are how much space totals on the network, and a software will show you that in a snapshot right now. Mm-hmm. And then, what's the Chia coin price? I don't really want to make a coin price prediction, but I'll say it this way, there aren't a lot of projects where one of the founders is routinely accused of being Satoshi Nakamoto. Not everybody has Bram Cohen writing the technology.
Right.
I expect we're a top 20 cryptocurrency by coin market cap. And so you can kind of work backwards to what a coin price might look like. And so, that's where you kind of get that range where I'm saying in a horrible day, it's going to be $20 million worth of marketing spend next year, and more likely $200 to $300 million out. And having that really democratized farmer community become that evangelist set, we think we're going to be able to get traction and build and kind of shift people to building Chia Lisp and all of the cool new things you can do to make actually using the stuff easy and programmable.
So we got another question here, which is a comment and a question, which is timing is everything. If only I knew February and March, I should have got into the market. Who would have thought? What's the timing for Chia or Bitcoin in general? So, I see Bitcoin as kind of a competitive alternative. Would you be buying Bitcoin at, let me see, it is at right now $11,397. Are you bullish or bearish on Bitcoin? Because I can't do anything with Chia at this minute.
Yeah, well, so look, three things. Thing one, we are of the Bitcoin experiment. We don't necessarily consider ourselves competitive with Bitcoin. Those are friends of ours. We share technology back and forth. We're just trying to, write and clean up what Bitcoin would do if it didn't have mining at its center.
Right.
That said, it means I'm bullish on both, right? I do believe, especially with the Fed printing money and the likely inflation and the forward pace, that, Bitcoin is in many ways gold, except it doesn't cost you anything to hold it. And it's also really hard to counterfeit, which we just saw happen in a major scale in the gold market.
Well, yes and no. So I can take a lead brick and I can buy a can of gold spray paint, but it's pretty easy to figure out that I spray painted my bar of lead. So
yeah, I'll tell you this, most people don't take physical delivery. We're taking physical delivery of Bitcoin.
Oh, that's another scam. Like if Chia is going to be holding coin and you start lending out 5 times the Chia coin that you hold, then I just call you Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and Citibank.
Well, this goes back to a saying in the Bitcoin community that we totally agree with, which is not your keys, not your coins.
Yeah, well,
right? So, Ledger and a piece of software and store your own keys, and then they're your coins, and nobody can take them from you.
Yeah, and I guess that's more discoverable to the public than how much gold is being held in Fort Knox or China.
Everybody can validate. Literally on the computer next to mine, there's a Bitcoin core node running. I barely notice it's there, and I can track every single coin's birth and death to know whether or not that coin's valid.
Yeah, I kind of see a rivalry between physical commodities, whether you're talking about gold or silver and crypto, because they're both going after the same thing. As fiat currency, all fiat currency is going to get run to the ground, run to zero.
Yeah.
Go study the Dutch Empire, go study any of the fiat currencies, and they've all run to the ground. The oldest one in existence is the British pound sterling, but hey, if you got inflation at 2% and you're printing, just do compounded interest. It's going to get run to the ground, and it's going to have to get remonetized, or Zimbabwe, Weimar Republic. We're headed that way. So instead of going in the I think it's going to take. I used to think it's going to take much sooner than later, and now I think it's going to take later than sooner. And so the Fed's MMT, monetary money policy, is going to continue to print. We're still going to see a pretty bearish market. But how in the world can you not see inflation, robbing the lower and middle class, who are going to need to protect themselves from, paper, because their wages are going to stay the same.
That's right.
And their cost of living is going to skyrocket, and that's how you rob, middle class and poor folks. So, do we hold coin? Do we hold silver? Do we hold crypto? Do we hold a combination?
Yeah, I think you move to a world where you're holding crypto or colored coins. These are assets issued on crypto. So, a gold-backed colored coin by someone you actually trust as a counterparty, that's a pretty good solution. And now you're in a liquid market where any coin can trade globally, any market you care about. I ultimately think that the way you get through inflation is that you hold your equities and your coins inside your Chia wallet.
Right.
And when, to answer the question earlier, I don't want to skip it, what's the timing on Chia? So with a mainnet launch at the end of the year, the time is now to start figuring out how you want to plot, how you're going to use the existing used hardware you have. I mean, I've got drives stacked up over here that have a couple bad sectors. I would never put anything I cared about on them, but they're perfect for plotting, because if they die,
so what?
Yeah. Throw them away. And so, every plot you create that's K31 or better is likely to make it to mainnet. K32 definitely will make it to mainnet. The only thing I will say is that over the next couple weeks, plotting is going to get a lot easier. It's going to be both faster and take less kind of temporary space.
And why is that?
We're continuing to optimize how the plotting algorithm works.
Okay.
It was very much a reference implementation originally,
right.
And now we're putting it into a production implementation.
Got it.
But we wanted to freeze that file format so that people could come early and get their farms ready. And, that file that you plot today, that first day mainnet goes live at the end of the year, you're going to start having a chance to win Chia.
Perfect. Well, this has been really helpful. A quick legal disclaimer: neither Gene nor I are providing any financial advice to anyone. So do not make decisions based on what the hell we say. We are not your financial advisor, so don't come after us if you lose money. If you make money and you want to give us some, we'll take that. So
we'll post our Chia addresses later. Also, forward-looking statements, those kinds of things are not necessarily going to come true. Those issues.
Yeah, exactly. So we have exactly 1 minute left. I'm pretty punctual on people's time because everyone's got a Zoom meeting or something starting. So, Gene, I want to thank you tremendously for your time today. And in the last minute, I'm going to play one of the Chia clip, and we'll go out with that. So, again, thanks everybody for joining deepthinker.com with Gene Hoffman, learning about the Chia network. Thanks a lot, folks.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Commercial banks provide many services to their users beyond just taking custody of money. Financial controls, escrow requirements, velocity limits, and fraud protection are all invaluable tools commercial banks provide a modern business. But slow, expensive, and unreliable international banking leaves a lot to be desired. Bitcoin and other blockchains have promised to fix the things that are the most frustrating about modern banks. Instead of days, transactions clear in minutes and at a fraction of the cost. But these networks lack the basic financial controls offered by banks. By building global digital money with sophisticated custody and clearing, Chia allows users to easily escrow large payments, verify the identity of payees, recover accounts, and integrate with accounting systems. This allows users to create a configurable international commercial bank that's even faster than Bitcoin. We are excited to be writing the next chapter in global digital money. If you'd like to be part of the story, visit chia.net.